So, number 1, Dr. Manhattan. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to Dre's channel. My name is Deondre. So, my first video that I wanted to do was about me. Now, some basic info you guys should know about me. I just graduated from the University of North Texas with a bachelor's in broadcast journalism and a minor in communication and social sciences. And then I recently just got accepted into grad school at North Texas as well, which I'll be starting this fall. And then as far as like what I did on campus, a lot of people probably know me from housing. I was a resident assistant at Santa Fe Traditions Hall for the past 3 years. Loved the job, loved all the people that I met and connected with throughout, and it was such a great experience. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I put all the questions that everyone sent me, wrote them down, put them all in this little box. Okay, so the movie suggestion box, I actually made it for movie nights when I was a resident assistant. Loved doing movie nights. They were probably my favorite programs just because they were the easiest programs to throw. So yeah, each time that we threw a movie, I would pass around a sheet of paper. Residents would write down what movies they would watch, put it in here, and then we pick based off that. First question, do you like roller coasters? It depends. I don't know, usually I'll say this, I'm always hesitant to get on a roller coaster. Like I usually have to be talked into it. But once I'm on and I get through the ride, it's pretty fun. I usually don't like the roller coasters where like your legs are hanging out or anything like that. So those are ones that I really hate. And yeah. What do you plan to do with your channel? So definitely one of the first things I like to do is movie reviews. I love going to the movies. I think they're a great pastime to have. For me, like I just find joy in just going, because whenever I go to a movie, I don't think about anything else in life. So if I'm going through, like, let's say I have, and that's usually the case, like when I was in college, there were times where I had like an exam or something and I just didn't want to think about it. I don't want to take my mind off it. So the first thing I want to do, I just went to the movies. Full disclosure, it's okay to go to the movies by yourself. It's not depressing at all. I'm telling you, it's peaceful actually. But yeah, nothing like going to the movies, getting some popcorn, putting a lot of butter on it, and just enjoying a movie because all you're thinking about is the movie in your mind. You're not thinking about anything else. Well, to me, I'm not thinking about anything else. So yeah, movie reviews, gaming channel, and pretty much like anything comic book or sci-fi related I would love to do, along with personal vlogs and I don't know, maybe like workout videos and shit like that. Oh my god, wow. How many crushes have you had growing up, and how many have actually liked you back? Damn, that's personal. Obviously, there was a crush in every grade level. I say probably around 25 to 30 crushes. And then how many have liked me back? 0! If you would take over an iconic character in a movie / TV show / book series, who would you choose and why? You know, I'd probably say Superman. I'm a big Superman fan, as you can see. I kind of would like to see Superman's arc, kind of him becoming that beacon of hope, because I feel like Man of Steel, like I loved it because he was him questioning himself and questioning, you know, his morals and whether or not he should save, you know, humanity and whatnot. And then I felt like Batman versus Superman kind of, you know, he still went on that downhill kind of slope. So I definitely would like to see him more reach that comic book status where he's, you know, this beacon of hope to people and he's saving all these people. And you know, I would definitely love to see that happy Superman. That's one experience that changed your outlook on life. Ah, shit. Okay. I think the first thing that I think about, and I'm not trying to get like people in their feels or go for emotions right off the bat, but my dad, he passed away 3 years ago, around May. I think that was something that really changed me and just changed like my perspective about life in general, and just as far as the people you share it with. It was definitely a tragic experience for me and my family. It really made us all closer, and it made me not take things for granted. And obviously, like whenever I have problems with friends or family, usually I'm always resorting to fixing them. especially since that happened, because you never know when, you know, you might not see someone again. Because obviously, like, when my dad did pass away, I think that week of, I think I was mad at him, and it was definitely something that, you know, I didn't talk to him for about a week, and I didn't get to tell him I love him. So obviously that happening, and you know, it's one of my biggest regrets. Obviously I know that he knows that I do, but it was definitely a hard experience. So I went through a lot of stages. It was really dark, man. I really was in a really bad place, and I'm glad I had a lot of friends and family that was able to, you know, be in my corner for support. So I'm always grateful for them. Describe yourself as an RA. I would definitely say I was pretty chill, pretty laid back. I never really wanted to get anyone in trouble unless it was the most obvious shit, like that I had to. I'll say this: when my first year as an RA, and I remember I had one of my first meetings with my first batches of residents. I basically gave them the speech that no matter what you do, I understand that you're new to college and you're going to be wanting to experiment and try out everything and do everything. You know, I didn't really want to say specifics, but you know, you're going to want to do everything, and obviously I understand, but at the same time, it's my job that I'm getting paid free housing, free meal plan, and you know, so I have to take it serious, because I definitely do not want to, you know, lose the job. But I just told him, you know, if you're going to do all that stuff, just make sure you do it outside the hall. And by outside the hall, I mean like off campus is basically what I'm saying. So yeah, just basically do that and be safe when you're doing it. I also was the one that tried to do a lot of programming and movie nights. Movie nights were definitely like my kind of thing. Like I always try to have them every week. And I was a very competitive RA when it came to making sure, like, intramurals, like I was always trying to run intramurals and coach a lot of the sports, and like I was that type of RA. So that's a good question. Who is your celebrity crush? It's Zendaya! Love her. You know, if I gotta be specific, Zendaya Coleman. I find her very attractive, very talented. If you haven't watched Euphoria, be sure to watch it. It's a great show. I would say, like, as far as others, like if I had to throw others out there, I think Zazie Beetz is beautiful. Pita Nyong'o, I don't think that's how you pronounce her last name. But I think she's very beautiful. I love Margot Robbie since Wolf of Wall Street. Even though she's like 50, I gotta throw in Halle Berry. What's the first thing you notice in a girl? I don't know. I definitely just like girls with a nice smile, so I guess that would be like one of the first things I would look for. Start with that and then base everything else after. I'm not going to say which things, but yeah. So smile first. How is life after undergrad going, especially now with this pandemic? Fucking terrible. Just being like an undergrad and just graduating, it really came at a tough time for me, and I can speak not just for me, but for several of my fellow graduating class this past semester. I think it's very hard in this market right now to find jobs. For me, it was very hard for me to even find an internship this summer, so I had to take a class as an alternative to the internship. That's basically one of the main reasons why I chose to do grad school. You know, I just wanted to add more options for my future employers. I think it would open up a lot more doors compared to the degree I have now. Not saying anything's wrong with just getting a bachelor's degree, but I always felt like I don't want there being anything left out. Like, I want everything that I could get right now. Like, I want my master's, so that shit will never come to question when it's me and someone else applying for the same job. Oh shit. What's your body count? My body count? It's LeBron James' number when he was in Miami. What's your family's ethnicity? On my mom's side, we're German, pretty sure 25% German from my mom's side, and then the rest is African American. Most embarrassing moment. Damn. Okay, first one was my sophomore, freshman year of high school. I had this test in class, and I remember I started breaking out and like kind of sweating profusely like down my face and whatnot, and it was crazy. Like I remember I was sitting next to these girls and they were just laughing and like what the hell is going on? And yeah, it was definitely a crazy experience. It kind of felt, you know, like one of those damn it kind of felt like an X-Men movie, you know, when a mutant finds out he has powers and whatnot, and it ends up happening at the worst fucking time. That's what it was for me. And it kind of just never stopped from there. So, you know, eventually, like, the more anxiety I had, the more I started to sweat. So it kind of made me more reserved throughout high school and like shy, and kind of I kind of try to avoid dates because I didn't want to hold hands. I wanted to avoid all that shit. So it definitely you know, put me in kind of like a shell. But obviously, you know, and actually I ended up getting diagnosed and having a condition called hypohidrosis, which means that, you know, I kind of sweat a little bit more than the average person. So usually it doesn't really happen that often, but like it happens at certain points, especially when I have high levels of anxiety, and it usually occurs like in my hands, forehead, sometimes feet, but yeah, it's just high anxiety. But obviously, and thankfully for the doctors, you know, they were able to prescribe me medication that controls it and limits it. So yeah, and I kind of learned, and one of the things that also helped me with that is that I kind of learned to just accept it as it is and embrace it and be happy with it. Because the more I do that, the less that I have fear over it and the less anxiety I have over it. So I would definitely say for anyone who has a similar condition, I'll probably do a video just talking about that in general. But yeah, if anyone has anything similar to that, definitely just learn to be yourself. Just learn to be yourself, and, you know, accept yourself as is. I don't treat it as something that sets me back. Have you ever cried watching a movie? Plenty of times. When I was a kid, usually a lot of times. I know Titanic made me cry once, but as I watched it as I got older, it was more, yeah, I didn't cry at all. I didn't get emotional because it just pissed me off. Like, I felt like her and Jack could have fit on the fucking door. So I think now seeing that, I'm not as emotional about the movie. Marley and Me, that was one. That's one I probably still would cry now. Recently, I say Avengers Endgame with Tony Stark. A Star is Born. What do you plan to do with your degree? Definitely want to go into sports broadcasting, whether that's like as a commentator, reporter, anchor, anything like that. I definitely love talking about sports. When I was at the university, actually, I worked for the student newspaper, NT Daily, and was a sports writer, and then 1 year I was a senior staff writer for sports. So I've written sports for football, basketball, track, tennis. Those are pretty general ones that I've done. This past year I actually covered UNT basketball, which was a great experience because that's the year, this past year is when we won the Conference USA regular season. And we had a really good team, and I remember I wrote a story on a specific player, which was Roosevelt Smart. So it was basically like a profile piece, kind of, and I ended up getting a text after the story was released from the SID for the basketball team. He said that the coach said, Coach McCaslin from the university, he said that it was one of the best stories that someone's wrote for the team that he's seen in recent years. So for me, that was a huge accomplishment. Definitely put a smile on my face. What movie franchise do you wish you could have been the sole creator of, and why? I love Star Wars, and especially like the prequel and the original series, original trilogy. Kind of mixed on the sequel trilogy, you know, the recent one. Kind of mixed on that. But if it was me, I would try to direct and try to write, go back to the Knights of the Old Republic series, because I think that's such a great storyline that not many people talk about. For me, like what sold me on it, I remember I used to always watch the game trailers of the Old Republic series, and just seeing those, it was so awesome, and part of me always wanted to see it in a live action universe for Star Wars. It's such an interesting storyline, especially with you know, the fact that you had all these Jedi, all these Siths, and there wasn't the rule of two. you know, with the Master and the Apprentice when it came to the Sith. So you had all these Siths roaming around. So I think that would have been a great. That's something that I would have wanted to explore upon in the Star Wars universe. If you could create your own team of superheroes and villains from any universe, who would you choose? And that's a 5 on each team. Number 1, Dr. Manhattan. Number 2, Superman. 3, Batman. 4, Spider-Man. And 5, Black Panther. Those are just characters I like. For villains, I would probably say, I guess if I'm a match Dr. Manhattan, I guess Galactus, Thanos, Darkseid, give me Deathstroke, and Joker. Favorite sports teams? Miami Dolphins.
With the 5th pick
Come on.
in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select
Yeah! Yes! Yes! Wow! Wow! I grew up with them. I was born in Orlando, Florida. Most of my dad's family is from Florida, so they kind of grew on me as a kid. One of my favorite players growing up was Ricky Williams. And also my first Pee Wee team was the Dolphins. So yeah, Miami Dolphins is definitely my favorite NFL team. College football, I like USC Trojans. I also root for Miami Hurricanes. I like USC mostly because when I was growing up, Reggie Bush was one of my favorite college players. I still look up Reggie Bush highlights to this day. I think he's a phenomenal athlete and was definitely one of, I think, the best college football running backs of all time. Basketball, I love the Chicago Bulls. I definitely love Michael Jordan, and my grandpa is from Chicago and he grew up and he's a huge Bulls fan, so definitely growing up around him, it kind of reflected on me as well, so I learned to love him. I loved him when Derrick Rose was there, and I still love him now, but it's hard to watch with everything going on, and I hate Jim Boylan. I hope we fire him. And then baseball, this might piss y'all off, but I'm a huge Yankees fan. I don't know, just loved them. Just kind of not watching baseball as much. Like, Yankees was one of the teams that I kind of just knew. So, and then eventually I started actually watching them and started liking a lot of their players. Derek Jeter is my favorite player. So, Yankees. So yeah, Dolphins, USC, Miami, Chicago Bulls, and Yankees. What's one show or movie that you're disappointed with the ending and why? I feel like this question is specifically Game of Thrones. Like, the person who wrote this question knew I would answer Game of Thrones because maybe they thought Game of Thrones. But yeah, Game of Thrones. It's hard. I can't even watch it now. Like, it's hard for me to put it on because I know how it ends and it's terrible. I hated how they made a lot of the characters and how they ruined a lot of the character development, especially with Jaime Lannister, Jon Snow. It was hard to see Jon Snow going from the Night's Watch to, you know, becoming the King of the North to potentially becoming, you know, the King of Westeros, and then to see him go back to the Night's Watch, which was bullshit. Then you had this whole, then I hated the fact that Bran knew this whole time that he would be king. You know, it's DC or Marvel? For me, DC. I love Marvel, especially the cinematic universe. I will say Marvel, like, the cinematic universe has been better. They've made a lot more movies recently that have been better than DC. Although I feel like DC, for me, like, I just love the comics and the heroes a lot more than Marvel. And I grew up a lot with the animated series that DC had, with the Batman the animated series, Superman animated series, and Justice League series as well. I hate when I see people bash one, love one, and then bash another. I think both are great. Both have several stories that they tell, and you know, each one is different. Each one is unique. I feel like DC does has a more darker vibe to it and tells a lot more darker stories than you would see from Marvel. Marvel has heroes that you could relate to because not all of them are superhuman beings compared to DC, where most of their hero lineup is gods. I would say DC over Marvel in general. But if you ask me, movie franchise, Marvel; comic book, DC; animated series, probably DC. So, what is your take on the current events of Black Lives Matter and For Our Nation? And as a, you know, an African American man, it's definitely troubling to see that you know, because I remember one of the first. There were many more before Trayvon Martin, but that was the first, you know, wake up to me, like the first one that I noticed, and example of police brutality. The fact that years later, the fact that we're still at this point, it's shocking. It's tragic that we haven't had any change in our police structure, in our social system, our government. But I'm definitely proud to see, you know, the fight that a lot of minority communities have been showing recently, especially with protests around the nation. I thought that was great just to see that. A lot of the professional sports leagues are taking into account as well and factoring that into their messages when it regards to Black Lives Matter and just racial equality. Favorite movie? So favorite movie is Man of Steel. Loved it. I just find it as, like, my first reaction watching it, I really thought it was epic. I loved the action sequences. I loved the story and how put together Zack Snyder made Krypton, and, you know, from beginning to end, I really loved the movie, enjoyed it. You know, there wasn't a scene where I was bored. So it was one of my favorite movies. Favorite memory / story of being an RA? Definitely would say just the residents in general, and how different they were, especially between years. First year, my residents were they were very outgoing, very social, but not social with me, which I didn't have a problem with. I remember my first year, they were very social, very interactive outside the hall and whatnot. They didn't really come to that many programs, but still loved them. They were still a great batch that I have plenty of memories with. And then my second year, I had a very, very interactive group that was very social. Some of them even planned their own programs that I just basically helped chip in with. So they were definitely a great batch as well, just because they were very social, very interactive. They were always cool talking to me and whatnot. This batch that I had this recent year, they were kind of a mix in between. So there were some programs I threw that a lot of them came. Some programs I threw, none of them came. I kind of had a mix of freshmen and upperclassmen. So they were very outgoing, they were very social, and then sometimes they were also just in their room studying all the time. And then I would also say intramurals, because I was big on intramurals. I love coaching flag football, basketball, and all these other sports. And I know we won a couple championships in basketball, which I was very proud of. Football, we made the championship one year. I was very proud of that. So just having those moments, and it's so great because I remember whenever I start those teams and have those first practices, nobody knows each other until the end of the season. Then everybody's like this whole group who we all eat out after the game, or they're hanging out in the lobby or off campus or whatnot. So that would basically be my favorite memory. Is just seeing just the residents and just bonding with them. Thank you guys for watching my first video. I hope I answered a lot of your questions. I'm sorry if I seemed a little nervous and I seemed a little inexperienced. I promise this is just the first video. I plan to be a lot better for a lot of my future videos coming up. Definitely be sure to subscribe, comment down below. And thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Shout out to YouTube. This nigga.